Do we want to talk a bit about why, like, what is DMCA and why is it a thing?
Yeah,
Just to
and
make
just
that
and why
clear.
this trend's bad for Twitch, honestly. So yeah, people talk about DMCA strikes. So
What does that stand for? Digital Millennium Copyright
yeah, it's
something
act. It's
Act.
it passed. It's a law from like 1998 that is still used to sort of govern this. I think a lot of people think maybe it's just a little anachronistic at this point or a little old. It was
Mm-hmm.
written like when the internet was pretty new in terms of how it was
Yeah.
used by the masses. But essentially, so here's some backstory. YouTube was sued back in 2007 or 2008 by Viacom because they were arguing that YouTube was allowing people to just rip and upload like Viacom owned content, like clips from Comedy Central, I think. And Viacom sued YouTube for $1 billion.
Mm.
And it went to court. And YouTube's argument was under the DMCA, that act, we have safe harbor protection, meaning, you know, as a host of content or like as any ISP would have, we are protected from not being liable for the things people are uploading
Mm-hmm.
to our platform. It's not us uploading it, right? So you should really be going after the people uploading it. But under the DMCA, YouTube or any hosting platform has a responsibility. They have a requirement to have two things. They need a system by which content owners can claim things and say it is their property. And two, YouTube or any other platform needs to have a system in place to ban people who repeatedly infringe on this by uploading other people's owned content.
So as a result of that Viacom lawsuit, YouTube built their version of a copyright content ID system.
Yeah, so a lot of the sort of the content ID system on YouTube now that allows people, a lot of it is based in the requirements of the DMCA, and I think was just reinforced by this lawsuit that YouTube ultimately, there was a judgment in YouTube's favor, but then it was appealed, and then there was sort of some gray area there, and eventually they settled, right? So I actually don't really
Yeah.
know what the outcome was, and I don't know if anyone outside
I
of the
heard
room
it
does.
ended up being a little bit more in YouTube's favor, but I can't recall the exact details.
Yeah, okay. You can fact check us. It wasn't a black and white case,
Yeah.
and YouTube did come out of it clearly with a responsibility not to just let people just re-upload
Yeah, they
content.
basically had no choice but to
They
build
need to
some
have
tool.
effective tools
Yeah.
for, and I'm not saying those tools now are perfect. We can talk about
They're
all the
not.
ways in which they're flawed and can be abused, and they are. And you have personally
On both
experienced
sides.
this, right?
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's more interesting. So you have some insight on that side, but you also have some insight on as a creator in the not the partner program, but
As a copyright holder.
yeah.
Right.
So what does it look like on your end?
Okay, so let me just step back a second. So you've all heard content creators complain about getting copyright strikes, right?
Yeah.
So I get them. I just got one on the second Life is Strange stream I just did.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
because I didn't have streamer mode on intentionally and there was some music playing in the
Mm-hmm.
background. I tried to sing over on the like 20 seconds it was playing, but it didn't work. So my whole stream is now claimed 100% of the revenue goes to the claimant.
Yeah.
That decision is at the discretion of the copyright holder. So if I put myself in the copyright holder seat, I, as a partnered YouTube content creator, have access to my own content ID. So I can log into my back end of the system, and YouTube does this thing where they calculate what percent of another video matches your content. So if you organize by percent match, I've done this to, I just look at what's 100% because 100% always means it's a complete rip of your content. There's nothing audio or visual that is different than your content. That's pretty clear to me. Like that's just a rip. And that is something I can select and it gives me the choice. I can share in revenue. I can take all the revenue. I can strike it and ask YouTube to remove it, or I can block it in territories that aren't mine, I think is how that works. So I have that choice. If it's 100% match, to me, that's just a rip. And in the past, I've just said, like, just take it down, take it down, take it down. Because that's not me. It's like there's a lot of channels who tried to rip nail art tutorials. That's a thing I've talked about before, especially ripping like Instagram stuff. And then there's the option of, and then after the 100%, I see things like 80%, 70% match. And I've clicked in to see like, what is this? And sometimes it's fan edits or clips of other nail artists like trying to follow my tutorial back when that was a trend, like following Simply Nailogical's tutorial. And I'm not going to do anything to that. I, as the content ID holder, decide I'm not going to strike it. I'm not going to take, I don't even want half their revenue. I'm not going to do anything because I appreciate that content. That is community-based content. To me, that's my decision. I don't want to hurt these people, and I like that content. It has a benefit to me. That's how I personally feel, and I feel like they are adding value. But then there's other like 80% matches that are clearly just rips from channels who make compilations of big YouTuber content, especially all my nail tutorials. So that's something that I might just strike down. And I have always chosen to just have something removed as opposed to taking someone's revenue, because I just feel like on principle, if I want my content to exist, it's going to be on my channel, and I don't want to just like use this third party to get more revenue. I don't know. It's just weird and messy to me. So I'm just like, just take it down if it shouldn't be there at all.
Well, it's an interesting choice, because I think what's sort of brilliant about YouTube's system is that it allows claimants not to just have to say, take it down. It allows them to claim the revenue.
This is good, but I want half of it if they want. I mean,
yeah, or all of it in some cases. I think
which is weird.
That's partly an issue, right? But I think YouTube has sort of publicized at times how much they pay out content owners who have claimed claimed their stuff through content. I think it was like $5 billion last year.
Because it is crazy. I streamed a gameplay for 3 or 4 hours. And 20 seconds of it, because the claimant has to write which portion of the video they're claiming. 20 seconds of it was copyrighted. But they opted at their discretion to collect all the revenue.
From the whole 4-hour stream.
From the whole 4-hour stream.
So I'm not saying that's a good thing at all, but I think this is actually the closest we have of any of the platforms coming to some sort of solution here, is something along these revenue sharing lines. Because if we don't just want all that, if we don't want your 4-hour stream to just be removed from YouTube, that would suck, right? Yeah. I think there should be some reasonable way of facilitating revenue sharing when you have included something that is clearly owned by someone else and that they could substantiate that. I think revenue sharing is totally reasonable. And like YouTube has like very specific guidance on things like people can upload cover songs to YouTube, and maybe it's not of any song, it's kind of up to the music publisher. But there's clearly like a sort of precedent for being able to upload a cover with the expectation that you are just going to have a profit share with the music publisher, and then you get the other half of it. Yeah,
I don't know if that always happens though.
There's Google help. There are forums, there are help pages that explain how you can do this, how you can check if it's eligible for revenue sharing, I think, before you even upload it. So like YouTube has at least, I think, dipped their toe into the water of like what some solutions here are for revenue sharing. I'm not saying content ID is perfect, but I think like your example of being on the other side of it is like really helpful to understand as a content owner, because think of how reasonable it sounded when you were talking about it right now.
But I'm reasonable as a content ID copyright owner because I am also a creator.
Yeah, and when
I think that it allows me to understand the value and the perspective.
So when these tools are used in good faith, I actually think they're really effective.